When I got sick with that prep, I literally thought like I was like having a heart attack after because my heart rate stayed like 120 and it just wouldn't come down.
You could get a trophy, but then the chase is over, and that's the part of the whole thing that's the most fulfilling.
The anticipation to something almost feels better than actually doing the thing or getting the thing that you want.
What's going on, everyone? Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Brandon Emslie. He's an experienced and impressive natural bodybuilder and prep coach who is currently right in the middle of his 2025 natural bodybuilding competition season. In this episode, Brandon shared his personal bodybuilding story. He shared everything from when and why he first started lifting weights, why he decided to do his very first bodybuilding competition. He shared the personal obstacles, struggles, and challenges that he's faced along his bodybuilding journey over the years. And of course, he shared all about his current competition season. I think you're going to absolutely love this conversation. So, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, Brandon Emslie. So, you are a prep coach. You're a bodybuilding posing coach. Do you also coach like mainstream clients, like lifestyle bodybuilding clients outside of competitors?
Yeah, so I would say probably about 25% of the people I coach are lifestyle clients. And then probably the other 70%, 75% are probably, yeah, are competitors. So it's when I first started coaching, it was like the opposite. I was like 25% competitors and about 75% lifestyle clients. So it's kind of switched over that way. So yeah.
That's awesome. I've kind of got a similar thing going on where the majority of my clients are mainstream, like lifestyle bodybuilders, and then very, very few prep clients right now. But we'll see if the ratio kind of shifts like it has for you. So in addition to the coaching, you're also a fantastic natural bodybuilder yourself.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I've been doing it for it's crazy. Like I was just like counting the years this past week, and it's been I believe 11 years since I started competing back in like 2014. So it's flown by the amount of years, and it just doesn't even feel like it's been that long. But yeah, it's 11 years now. So
Over a decade, double digits. That's a big deal.
yeah.
When did you I know you're in the middle of your competition season right now, and I've got more questions about it. But I'm curious, you started competing 11 years ago. When did you start lifting? How old were you?
So I started lifting when I was in grade 11. So I would have been, I think, 16. Yeah, I think it was actually originally when I started lifting was through MMA. So there was a class at the Rutland Senior Secondary School in Kelowna where we actually did MMA, which was super cool. Like I've never heard of that before. I moved to Kelowna, so I started implementing that, or I took that course, and once per week we would go to the weight room and like work out. And I found I was like when I was doing like I loved the MMA, but when I was working, I was like, oh, I actually like this more. Like I was getting really into working out, and then actually started to work out on my own, like at the YMCA by RSS. I don't know. Are you originally from Kelowna as well?
I'm from Oyama, Lake Country. Do you know
Uh,
do you know of it?
yeah.
Just outside. Okay. Sometimes I say I'm from Oyama to people that are from Kelowna area, and the name is like it's a Japanese name, and people are like, Oyama, are you like pulling my leg or something? It's like, no, it's actually called Oyama. But yeah, and I'm familiar with Rutland, very familiar. I'm in Kelowna right now, so it's not too far away from where I'm sitting. So when you say MMA, you mean like mixed martial arts, like fighting?
Yeah, so mixed martial arts, like yeah, I got really into that. Like I was actually pretty good at it too. Like my um TA or instructor teacher for it was like trying to convince me to like push myself into like competing in it. But I was like, oh, like I wasn't really sure about it. And so I didn't end up doing that. But when we did our little competitions, so at the end of every semester in school, we would have these MMA competitions, like more grappling, and I would always win my weight class, but I would always get destroyed when I went up against the open. So we would have these different weight classes, and then when you won your weight class, you'd go up against the other weight class and see who was like the grand winner. But the when I beat my guy, then I had to go up against somebody who was, I think he was like 220 pounds. And I was at that time, I think like 160. So I think that was another reason
60
that
pound
pushed,
difference.
yeah, that pushed me to want to gain more mass and like be a bigger dude. But I remember like trying to grapple him. He just kind of got on top of me and I was like screwed. I was like, shit.
Yeah, that just doesn't seem fair from my perspective. That's for sure. Was that just like a Rutland competition thing? That's not what they actually do in the MMA, is it?
No, yeah, that was just a Rutland one. Because how they did it, yeah, we'd all be put into our weight classes. I can't remember what like the buffer range was for that, but it was funny. There was actually girls in there too, so sometimes you'd be going up against girls, and some girls would actually beat the guys, which was very, very interesting because some of those girls were like super strong, very technical. But yeah, we do our weight class, and then when you win your weight class, just for fun, they'd be like, "Okay, let's have all the people that won their weight class and see who wins between all of that." But then it's like, yeah, you don't have like I was on the lighter side, especially back then. So going up against like the heavyweight guy was not fun.
That's hilarious. I actually have a story that kind of resonates with that. I was in judo when I was growing up, from I think like fourth grade till, I don't know, not that long, into like eighth grade till I was like 13, 14. So probably for a stretch of 3 or 4 years I was in it. I was not very coordinated. I was not very good. And I used to compete like once a year we used to go to tournaments like in Kamloops, not too far away from Kelowna, but there's some in Vernon, also very close to Kelowna. And um I went up against a girl when I think I was 11 or 12, and it was like the gold medal round, and I lost. So I mean, kudos to her. She was fantastic. She's a fantastic athlete, but she beat me. I didn't hear the end of it though from my family. I grew up. My grandpa called me. I think he was. I don't think he was there watching, but he heard about it, and I grew up, and my nickname was Silver Sammy from coming second. But kudos to the girl who won. She was skilled. That's for sure. I mean, I wasn't fantastic, but um, so okay, so you started lifting weights like once, twice a week with the MMA training. What was it about the lifting that you started to enjoy?
I think it was just I progressed really quickly with it. So like I gained a lot of strength quite fast. And genetically, I think I responded better than the average individual, especially right off the bat. So like my arms were like getting really pumped up. And like I think just through MMA, like I probably put on with the MMA and doing a little bit of strength training, like I probably put on like 5 pounds of muscle. I'm not even paying attention to diet or anything like that, but like just simply from doing the MMA classes and resistance training once per week. So I think just seeing the changes in my physique kind of wanted me to go more down that route. So I think that was probably the main thing.
Did you find that when you first started lifting, that when you were doing movements, that like the technique kind of clicked in with you right away? Like it was something that kind of felt naturally, or was it something that like the technique in particular took extra work, especially considering you responded quite quickly?
I would say for my upper body, like bicep movements, arm movements were always like I could feel like such a gnarly connection with. But when it comes to chest, when it comes to legs or any major compound movement, I was terrible. Like I remember going to the YMCA, I would always ask for advice at like the front desk, like or the fitness desk. I think Alistair was the one that I would go to all the time. Like shout out to him. He actually helped me out a lot with technique. But yeah, when it came to deadlifting, squatting, even benching, I was not too. It. I would say it probably took longer than the average person to really hone in on those kind of movements. But for certain like isolation movements, I was able to get a really good connection with those. Yeah.
Got it. What do you think it was? Like, when did you feel like things started to click, like with your bench pressing and your chest movements?
I think it was just repetition time after time. Like, I think when it really clicked, I do you know Matt Ogus?
I do.
Yeah. So I started following his program. Like I got into watching YouTube videos of him when I was quite young as well. And he had like I can't remember the program that he wrote, but it was like a 7-5-3 program or something where there was bench, squat, and deadlift in it. And like I was some days doing like 10 sets of three, some days doing like 5 sets of or 7 sets of 5 sets of 7 or something. So I was doing like a ton of volume on these movements, and through just doing them that much volume over time, techniques just got better and better. I think probably some neurological adaptations were probably happening there as well, but just pretty much, yeah, repetition.
It makes sense. It's just like extra practice time, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So you started lifting, you're 16, 17 years old. If you're in grade 11, you started to see some pretty significant progress right away. You had really good connection with like your biceps, triceps, delts too. I know you got fantastic delts now.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, okay. And when did you start to think about competing? Was that something that came many years later, or was it relatively soon?
So that was probably about 2, maybe even 3 years later. I think I was 21. So yeah, that was probably actually 3 to 4 years later. There was a guy at my gym, Michael was his name, Mike Zito, I think is his last name. And he was a natural bodybuilder at the time. So I was always seeing him there, and I was always working out as well. And like, he kind of saw the potential in me. So he would always like nag me, like, hey man, you should compete, you should compete. But at that time, like I wasn't really super dedicated to it. Like my diet wasn't really in check. I was kind of going through a bit more of a partying phase in my life. I was
It's like the
drinking pretty much,
college years.
yeah, drinking pretty much every single weekend. Didn't really have my priorities in check, so it took me a while to be like finally say, okay, I'm gonna go for this. I think I was just kind of getting sick of like that lifestyle. Like it was funny too. I have two older brothers and one younger brother. So when I was 17, I was using their fake ID to get into bars and clubs and strip clubs and stuff like that. So like I was getting into partying like yeah around that 17, 18, 19, like going quite ham with that, still lifting as well. But by the time I got to 21, I was just kind of getting sick of it. And you could say even like a mild amount of like depression just from like living that kind of lifestyle. And throughout, like when I was younger, like I played so many sports. Like I was very lucky to have like my mom push me to do a bunch of different sports. Like I did volleyball, I did soccer, I did baseball, I curled. That was like a big thing for my family, curling. Um, did mountain biking and snowboarding. So I was like always doing something physically active. But during that time, like I didn't have anything that was kind of scratching that competitive itch. So like when I turned 20, when I was 21, I was like finally like, okay, like I feel like I got to do something. I feel kind of just stagnant, and competing just seemed like okay, like it seems like something cool. Like it's starting to get quite popular, especially the men's physique. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it, and that's kind of what made me decide to do it.
That's awesome. So throughout the college years, um, there was drinking, partying. Like it sounds like it wasn't the healthiest lifestyle. It sounds like. Did you, and so you got to the end of that, decided you wanted some kind of a competitive outlet. You were already training. There were people in your gym that were suggesting, hey, you should think about competing. So that was where you kind of made the connection. Hey, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
100%.
Cool. Okay. Were you And you weren't paying a whole lot of attention to your nutrition up to that point. Did you train pretty consistently all throughout college?
Yeah, so I would actually like it's funny, even with drinking and like partying and stuff like that, like training consistently see was still there. I would say I was almost a little like obsessive with the training, where I
Interesting.
was like still, I would say I was training like a bare minimum of 4 times per week. Most of the time I was probably in the gym around 6 days a week, maybe one day off kind of thing. But I would say before I started competing, I was starting to learn a bit more about nutrition, but it was more of that kind of clean eating. Like I was just getting like chicken breast, vegetables, rice, trying to just load up on as much as that as physically possible. I would say when I was younger, I was quite, you could say, quote unquote, a hard gainer, but I didn't know how to do it properly. So I was trying to eat all this clean food and like literally force feeding it into the
Just
point
bloated all
of
the
like,
time.
yeah, like it was almost to the point of like an eating disorder because like there was points where like I actually threw up because I ate so much food. So like it got quite
Wow.
extreme. But
Yeah.
once I started to learn more of why I was like that full and like I was on like the upper limit of my body fat set point, or like I was like because I was probably like holding here for like 3 years, just trying to force feed the whole time without a break. So I at that point had zero appetite and actually like disliked eating food for probably a year to 2 years. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I have I have a very high food drive myself. Maybe you and I have some similarities, maybe some differences. My food drive is very high. I have trouble like not bloating myself. Like I can eat until I'm gonna like uh I could just never stop eating. I think that's like me having a very high food drive. So this is interesting to me. What and you were training very consistently. So 6 days a week. What do you think drove you to train so consistently?
Like I would say, like I was probably a bit more attached to like the way I physically looked. Like when I grew up, like I was always like a decently strong kid. Like you could say I had like that farmer kind of strength. Like we did a lot of things outside and did a lot of like sports and stuff. So I had strength, but like I never like looked like I was that strong. So I always just would kind of compare myself to like all these other big dudes, these kind of guys that were playing football and stuff, and I just felt like I didn't look the way I wanted to look, and for getting girls and stuff like that. At that age, I was just like, hey, like maybe if I get jacked, I'm gonna get more attention this way, and it's gonna help with my confidence. So I think that was the leading driver at that point to like make sure I was going to the gym and was just a bit more, I would say, like obsessive about the way I look. But yeah, so I would say that's probably the main thing that drove me.
Got it. And that was your college years. Did you I don't know if you said did you go to college? Did you go to university? I know it was that kind of age range.
Yeah, so I went to university. Like I started off in sciences. I was there for 2 years and wasn't really digging it too much. Then uh, took a year off, and then I was like really into working out at that point. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll go back to school for kinesiology. So I did a little bit of upgrading, and then went back to school for kinesiology, and then finished my degree with that.
Did you find that your education with kinesiology has that helped with like your training or the coaching that you do now?
Yeah, like I would say to a certain degree, um, it's with bodybuilding, probably not a ton. With general lifestyle and like the psychology of coaching and all of those kind of aspects, definitely. I would say going to school for that too, like because it's funny. Before I went to school for human kinetics, I was already like following Team 3D MJ. I was already consuming their content, like Lane Norton's content. So I already had like a baseline of knowledge there. But it definitely helped it with like the anatomy, helped, yeah, like the psychology, sports psychology, and all of that kind of stuff. And it helped me understand what I was going through when I was younger with my eating behaviors and like my appetite and like the body fat's settling point and how I was constantly trying to overshoot that. And I was always trying to eat more food than I probably should have been trying to eat. And so like it kind of helped me realize what I was going through at that point in life.
That's awesome. I went to university for something like entirely different than anything fitness related, bodybuilding related. I went for music, and I don't have any regrets about it. I think like, I still have some takeaway things from that I can bring into the fitness stuff. But I've often wondered if things would be different if I went into like something like some kind of a sciences or kinesiology. So that's interesting to hear that it's helped in some ways, in certain ways, and um, yeah, that's cool. And something else you mentioned earlier, that throughout some of those earlier years of lifting and during those years not like having the healthiest lifestyle in the world, aside from lifting weights regularly, that like I think you said that you were kind of depressed to some extent over those years. Was it like the prospect of competing that kind of helped you get out of that, or did it help you get out of that?
Yeah, like I would say it gave me something to work towards. Like during that time, like that was the time where I didn't really know what I was wanting to do with my life too, and I was going into school for sciences, thinking about switching over to engineering, but I didn't really want because both my older brothers were doing engineering and doing that, so I was kind of trying to push myself to do that because my mom and my parents were encouraging that, so I felt like a pressure to do it, but though I was getting okay grades, I just was not enjoying that. And I think I was also, yeah, the drinking on top of it was affecting me mentally and all of that. And then when it came to competing, it just seemed like kind of something right there that I could work towards, that I could set a goal for and something to drive for. I don't know. Every time, I'm not sure if you're like this too, but every time I start a competition prep, like it's almost like the happiest time. Like just knowing, okay, like this is what it's going to look like. We're driving, like this is the end outcome or what we're trying to accomplish, and just having some process to go through I find is just so much fun. Um, so I think that process and like kind of doing something that's challenging also kind of got me out of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I totally get that. It's like it's the chase, right? It's like having the light on the other end of the tunnel that you're working towards, and you feel like you're making a little bit of progress every day, and it's rewarding too because it's not easy. It's like, um, the third Harry Potter movie. I think of this scene where they're in the divination class with Professor Trelawney. I don't know if you know those Harry Potter movies, but they're reading the tea leaves in the cup, and Harry's fortune is something like, you're going to suffer, but you're going to be happy about it. And I don't know why, but that just makes me think about prep, because that's what prep is. You're like voluntarily kind of experiencing the discomfort and suffering of prep, but it's awesome at the same
Yeah.
time because it's so rewarding. So yeah, definitely. I definitely get that. Um, okay. Did you do your first competition in Kelowna? Was it one of those local shows?
Yeah, it was at the time, I think it was called the Western Canadians or something like Western, something like that. Yeah, I did that first show and ended up doing it without a coach. I
Wow.
think I literally I was because I knew some friends and like was I bouncing at that time? Yeah, I knew a couple people that were competing, so I got some advice from them to do like with what to do with my diet. I was searching up online. Like I was lucky to find Lane Norton at the time, and he had some
Yeah.
posts and I think on bodybuilding.com and like how to peak and stuff. So I was trying to follow that, but definitely cut the calories a bit too much. But the cool thing is, I think one of the biggest things with the prep that would help me out was at that point because I had the 2 years where appetite was terrible. I didn't like enjoy eating food. Like I was like always just feeling like I was force feeding and trying to get as big as possible. It took me away from that too. So I actually started to feel hunger and food, and I was like, oh, okay, like I can actually
Right.
feel these kind of things again. So
Interesting.
it was a nice break from that. Um, until it got to the point where I was getting so lean that the hunger was getting very elevated and then very challenging to go through it. But no, it was a cool experience that from that perspective as well.
Interesting. So how did you do? How did you place for that first show?
So the first show, I was it second or no, it was third. Yeah, I placed third at that show. So like it actually turned out like decent for a first time show. So I think me placing third at that show also helps kind of drive me like, oh, okay, like I put in this much work, I did this much stuff, and I was able to place actually pretty decent. And genetically wise with my abs and everything, I think that definitely helped. So I knew I had potential in the sport, and just going through that process. Though that first show was probably the roughest contest prep, like most first
First
timers.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was definitely a very very cool experience.
Did you finish the show and were you like, I want to do another one? Was that like your immediate reaction, or were you like, okay, I need some time to think about this. I don't know if I'm going to do this again, or was it like you knew you wanted to keep doing it?
I knew I wanted to keep doing it after that first show. I also think I didn't get so lean that I was like real messed up after it. Like after that first show, I think I probably gained like 10, 15 pounds within like the first 2 months, and then it settled out. And then I got back into the point of it being hard to gain again. Um, but I actually competed that next year in the BC provincials. I can't remember. It was for the federation called the BCABBA, which I don't believe is around anymore. But that BC, it's kind of like I think it got switched to the BC Cup too, but it was an enhanced show. So my second time competing was against enhanced people, which
So you didn't
I
place as high.
no. So I think I came eighth out of like 15 people, which is still not terrible for
Still,
an
I
enhanced
mean,
show.
yeah. You stood your ground, kind of.
Yeah. But
That's awesome. Okay. And how many preps have you done total? How many shows have you done total? Do you know? Is it a lot?
yeah, so it's I believe it's eight.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you just competed last weekend.
Yeah. So yeah, and
That was the
so
eighth.
that would have been the eighth. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm almost tied with you. I've done 7. So I'm almost there. I'm almost where you're at. Um,
Nice.
have you ever found, as someone who has been competing pretty consistently for a long time, over a decade, and you've been training for longer than that consistently, or I think consistently, have you ever found it tough to be consistent? Like, have you ever had like big lows as far as motivation goes, or big struggles as far as that goes, or has it been like you've just been into it the whole time?
There was probably two times where it's been because I had patellar tendonitis in my knee after I think it was 2020 or 2021, and like it took me about like 8 months to recover and actually like start training my legs hard. I think that was probably the hardest time to go through in terms of motivation. Like I still got the training sessions in, but it was just brutal because I hate not training legs. Like I'm already kind of genetically have like slightly smaller legs, so me not being able to train them just made me feel like, ah, shit, like now I'm gonna actually be this like skinny leg dude. So I think that definitely brought the motivation down. So I was able to push through. Like there was maybe a couple more missed workouts in there than previous years due to that. But I would say there's like since I've started, there's probably not been 1 month, like full month, where I haven't worked out. Like there's been like a week long vacation, or like got sick or something where it's been a week or two. But I think, yeah, I don't think there's been any time span that's been like longer than that throughout that time.
Got it. Well, injuries, like, they suck, man. That's for sure. Especially like something so central on that part of your leg that it probably affected like all of your squatting type movements, like all of your lower body type work, right?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like nagging, ongoing pain. Did
Y-
it did it start from anything in particular? Like, was it like from kind of some kind of a sport outside of the gym, or did you start feeling it when you were in the gym? Where did it kind of originate from?
Yeah, so that's a funny story. So in 20, I think it was 2021. So like COVID happened. It canceled two of my competition preps. The first one, and then on the second one. So this was after the second one got canceled. So the show just got canceled, and I was back into training, and I was being a bit more aggressive with the loading, and I was going from more like a bodybuilding, more isolation movements, like not a ton of like back squatting. And then I was like, screw it, I want to try to compete in powerlifting. So I went right over to doing like quite heavy squatting. Um, I was doing like low bar squatting for the first time. And I'm pretty sure it was literally the first session where I switched over to that style of training, is where I heard like a little bit of a pop in my knee when I went down, and I came back up, and it was a little bit tender. And then pretty much that next day I was like, okay, it's hurting. And then from there, it just kind of continued to get worse and worse.
Shoot, that is very tough. I know for me personally, if there's one thing that can really dampen my mood, or at least in the past, it's been like those kind of injuries where it's like it's not going to be one of those overnight healing things. It's going to probably take a while, and it's going to impact training, and it does impact training. I've had I've had so many of those kind of injuries. When I did my first prep, I had this something around like a pec tendon. It might have been a bicep tendon even. It was just like around my armpit. There was something that was really inflamed, and it affected all of my bench pressing types of all of my chest movements for that first prep. So I had to like train very light, very slow. It still made it work, but it's that feeling where you're in the middle of your training session, you want to go hard, but you have to stay reserved, and you're feeling the pain the whole time, and it's like you got that cold sweat, like, oh, I can feel it.
Yeah.
um but I don't know about you. I've always found that in retrospect, um sometimes it's like when I feel an injury, sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise, where like that taught me how to train better. That pec injury taught me not to overdo it in some avenues, how to move a little bit more efficiently. And I think my chest actually got bigger because I injured myself doing that, and it taught me how to train better. I don't know if you found the same thing, or if it's just with with the knee tendon, that's just a tough one.
Yeah, like it was like that's funny that you say that, because I definitely learned a lot from that as well. Is not to be stupid and go real heavy right when you're
Yeah.
just getting very lean, and like you don't have as much body fat, you don't have as much cushion around the joints. Your strength's gonna be down. There's a lot of high amount of fatigue when you're finishing up a competition. Like, because I think I was like 7 weeks out from my show, like almost competition ready, and then I try to switch to train like a power lifter when I haven't been training with that much load, with that kind of technique. So I think I just kind of botched this transition. I should have went a little bit smoother into it. Maybe had a couple lighter weeks after the show got canceled. Slowly brought up my weight and a little bit more body fat, and then started training that way rather than just simply
0 to 1,000.
yeah, I think that was the main thing. But the biggest thing that I learned from that too, with the injury, like I went to a physio, and he wasn't really the type of physio that worked with athletes. So I was going from like literally training my legs like quite heavy to try, like he was trying to get me to do like these really very light body weight movements. I'm like, man, like this is like not like, so like it actually made it worse when I downgraded to doing such light stuff. because I was like squatting like I think 315 for like 8 reps or something at the time, and then I was trying to do like these partial body weight squats, and I was like, it was just such a
You probably
downgrade.
like atrophied.
Yeah, so I think it literally atrophied and made like my quads smaller and everything. And but then I found a better physio and we started using BFR. And like, man, BFR was
Oh
literally
yeah.
like a life changer for my patellar tendonitis. Like, I swear, if I would have started that right off the bat, I probably would have been back in the gym
In
within
weeks
like
rather than months.
yeah, maybe a month, maybe even weeks rather than like 8 months later. So just finding something that's more specific to like an athlete.
Yeah, BFR bands are fantastic. I've used them before, both for my lower body and my and elbow pain that I've had in the past. I haven't used them in a while, but now that you bring them up, because they're great to use even when you're not injured sometimes, right? So
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
oh, yeah, I was gonna say the pump is man, when I was injured for so long and I didn't really wasn't able to load my patellar tendon, and then I was finally started using BFR and got just the most gnarly pump of probably my life in my quads, just because they haven't got like a high stimulus for a while. And like I could barely literally walk out after because they were just so pumped up. So if you've never tried them and if you have like an injury, they can be a very interesting sensation when it comes to the pump.
Don't underestimate the power of the BFR bands.
Yeah.
You're walking out of the gym like a penguin.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we are, and you are in the middle of a competition season right now. How has the prep been going? How's this prep gone before your first competition? So how's the dieting process?
Dude, it's been probably the easiest prep I've ever been through. So like this prep was actually I'm just been doing it myself. Last prep I did with
Wow.
Jeff Alberts,
Yep.
and like some of the stuff that I learned from him with like the pre-prep positioning,
Positioning.
pre-prep cut, maintenance period, then going into a cutting phase. That allowed me to get so much leaner last time and not really feel like the extreme effects till probably I think it was around 8 weeks out where it was really starting to come in. This prep, I literally haven't hit this extreme prep symptoms yet. But I started 10 pounds leaner than last time. So last time I was
Wow.
190 and I maintained there for a bit and then cut down to like 165 at my all-time lowest weigh-in. This prep, I started at 180, maintained there for about 2 months. And then very gradually went down to 170 for my first show. And
Wow.
like, it's been very interesting because like I have no desire to binge on food right now. Whereas with like the last prep with Jeff Alberts, like it wasn't there until like that very end. Right now, it was funny at my last show. Like everybody's like, "Oh man, like I can't wait till this meal after this show. I can't wait to have all this food." And I'm just sitting there. I'm like I'm actually pretty good right now. Like I don't feel too bad. And I was like, okay, like I'm gonna have one meal out after this show with like a friend or something. And like I didn't end up actually going out for that meal. Like something individual was busy. So I went home, literally had some more chicken breast, had some more ground beef.
Prepped food.
Uh,
Yeah.
just because I was like, okay, I was kind of low in protein today. I'll just kind of get some more protein in to kind of balance it out. So I had that and I was like, okay, like I'm good.
No, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, so it's been cool too, like libido wise. Like I still have my libido intact. Like there's still a drive there. In past preps, like it's gone down a lot or almost to complete zero. So I think the slower approach has definitely helped out a lot in keeping like testosterone and hunger levels intact or in a good level. I'm not as lean as I was at the very end of my last season. Like I have a feeling those symptoms are probably going to start to appear within these next couple weeks before the Edmonton show. But right now they have been definitely quite manageable. There's still a little bit of a drive to be like, okay, I kind of want to have my regular life back, like where I have more flexibility with food and social events and not restrict those things as much. But from an appetite hunger perspective, it's been not bad at all.
That's awesome, man. And I know too, like it's cool to hear this because I saw the photos that you posted like on Instagram. So at least I didn't see a lot of them. You probably haven't got like pro stage shots yet, right?
So,
Uh,
yeah, like there's a couple pictures on the
those were
BC
like
Cups
a
website.
couple. Yeah, I saw those. Yeah, those. Yeah, those. So like you look fantastic, and it's just interesting. And like you're super super lean. So it's just interesting that like the real gnarly diet effects that will, that usually eventually start kicking in that they haven't set in yet. And it kind of makes sense. Like you look like you're fresh and full on stage, and like it makes sense that from your feedback that you feel pretty good too. So like you look good and you feel good. So it makes sense. I found that for me, I know exactly what you mean. Like it's like eventually you get to a point when you're dieting, it's like almost no, I don't know if it's an overnight thing. I can't remember to be honest, but eventually you cross the line and then it's like all of a sudden it's a food focus thing for me. Where all of a sudden it's not just hunger, it's like when you can't stop thinking about food and like it gets kind of weird in that. And then that's when it's like, okay, the rest of the prep's gonna be pretty tough from this point. Um how many how many shows are you doing? You've done the one so far, and then you got Edmonton. You're also doing Kelowna, right? The next Kelowna one, WMB of Kelowna. So is it three?
Yeah, so I have three that I'm thinking of. Like, depending on how this next show goes, like we'll kind of determine how many more shows I do after. Um, like I wanted to do at least three this prep. Like I found last prep I did two, and like I was just kind of burning out towards the end. With my last prep too, I got sick twice during prep, which I think messed me up pretty bad. And like the first time, not so much. Like I got quite sick and then I recovered quite well. But then the second time I got sick was between the first show and the second show. And like during that time we were trying to dig and then we couldn't really dig because I got sick. And then when I got sick with that prep, it took me out for I think like 5 days or something like that. I had quite a high fever, probably the sickest I've ever felt in my life in
Yeah.
prep due to I'm assuming the immune system just being really down.
Everything's worse. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember I had a training session after having that sickness. And I literally thought like I was like having a heart attack after because my heart rate stayed like it was like 120 and it just wouldn't come down from 120 for like I think it was like 2 or 3 hours after I worked out. So I probably went into the gym after being sick and like not getting enough food in. I went to the gym like on that Friday, pushed probably harder than I should have. Came home and like yeah, my heart rate was just so elevated. I was getting like tightness in my chest and stuff. And yeah, so I was starting to get all like weird in my head about it and ended up going to like the doctor and stuff and they said I was fine. Like I think it was just maybe a bit of like an onset of like maybe a panic attack or something going on there. Um,
It sounds like it was really uncomfortable. Like it sounds like a situation where you would take like pre-workout and not work out. It's like you just like, ugh.
yeah, yeah, no, it was pretty much like that. Too. I cut out caffeine after that too, just to ensure that that wasn't maybe playing into it. Because at that point, I was on quite high amounts of caffeine, so I think that was maybe playing into that heart rate and I think probably the fatigue and like the training and like not enough calories and that being quite lean and all of that kind of just my body just be like, hey man, you gotta stop doing this. Like I feel like my brain was just like, okay, like this is not good.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy, man. I think I remember that. So that's the 2023 prep you did, right? I
Yeah.
think I remember you like posting a little bit on your Instagram stories at the time, and I was wondering about it. So that's crazy. Contest prep is like it's hardcore, man. Like you get sick and it hits you harder. Like it, your it, training is harder. You have like hunger more frequently, potentially all of the time. Food focus sets in at some point. It's tough. It's hardcore. That's for sure.
My
Rewinding. Go ahead.
Sorry. My theory is that like when you get to a certain level of leanness, like your brain's almost trying to do anything in its power to trick you into getting more food in. So like for me, like at that point, it was almost like my brain was like tricking me to believe that I was dying so that
Yeah.
I would eat more food to not put my body through all this. So
It's a
even
nasty
though it's
trick,
not,
man.
but yeah. So I feel like there's something about that, and like this time around, I'm trying to stay as far away from getting to that breaking point. So like I always talk about this with all my athletes, where like almost anybody I've ever worked with, like you're gonna have a breaking point at some point. Some people think that it's further away than it is. Some people think that it's not that far, but it actually or not that close, but it's closer than they think it is. So like trying to get like keep it your distance from that, but like towards the end, see how close you can get without breaking, kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and like I found myself in the past always kind of breaking and then having some issues. So like these like with Jeff, like we found a way to kind of not get so close to it with being a bit more gradual, having refeeds and stuff like that. And this time around, like just slowing down the process even more, having more refeeds and uh, all of that kind of stuff. So I found I'm kind of rambling a bit, but I've kind of found like trying to stay as far away from it as you can until you start noticing, okay, like I'm not seeing it, I'm getting more stalls and stuff. I have to push a bit more, but trying
Yeah.
to not do that too soon.
Totally. Well, and you've also got you've got also got all of this experience too, right? So you have that prep that you did with Jeff and all the other preps that you did before that. I don't know if you worked with Jeff before that, but you have all of this experience where you did break past that limitation that you have. So you have more experience at this point. So you kind of have an idea of like, okay, I'm getting close, but I'm not getting, but I've still got a little bit of space. And then maybe you have an idea of like, okay, now I'll let myself go over it because I'm getting close to my last show or whatever. But I think like having all of these preps under your belt and all of these shows probably has helped you quite a bit, just the experience and having, you know, actually really tested your limits by going past them every now and again, or every time up to this point.
Yeah, 100%, man. And there was like, especially with COVID happening and stuff like that, and uncertainty there, and there was preps where like I pushed like I was kind of listening to a lot of David Goggin and like trying to be like so hardcore no matter what, kind of having so many steps, like pushing to the limit, and like it just wrecked me, and I wouldn't even have to get that lean, like having that mentality, and like it pushed me to the point where I talked to my clients about this too, like this bottomless pit of hunger. Like no matter how much food you have, like there's just gonna be an extreme amount of food focus. Where like I've had a couple preps where like I broke down and like binged like over 10,000 calories in one day. And I've literally had weeks of like 10,000 calorie binges of like where I gained like 30 pounds in a full month, literally all body fat. So I've been on both ends of the spectrums where it's like where I haven't been lean enough, but like I haven't been that messed up. But I've also tried to push things so extreme that I've gotten really messed up from it, but not even that lean. And then I've found like now that fine balance from when to push, when to pull back, when to push, when to pull back. And I feel like as a coach for bodybuilding, understanding and like picking up on those like symptoms from people can really help you determine how close they are getting to that point of like no return.
Yeah, you learn when to react and when to be proactive, and yeah, totally. You swung really far yourself on one end of the pendulum and the other, and now you kind of like have a good idea of like the signs and what feelings you should be experiencing at certain points as you get closer and further away from that limitation point. But that's cool that you're able to apply that to your clients as well too. That's it's it's nice. I know I feel the same way with my coach, who is also Jeff Alberts. It's very nice to be able to have someone to give the reins to that you trust, that has a good sense of this kind of thing. So it's really nice, I can imagine, for your clients, because you have all of this experience yourself, that you can pick up, like you mentioned, on when they're starting to, get close to their breaking point. You can help guide them along the way. I know that, like, from my perspective, that's done so much good for me. For this prep that you're doing right now, I know you mentioned, so you started 10 pounds lighter than you had the prep before. So you're 180 pounds when you started this time. Did you do like a pre-prep diet up to that point? Like, did you do a diet before the diet?
Yeah, so I didn't get quite as heavy this past off season, just because I recovered so well. Like when I was with Jeff Alberts, like I get hit 190 after that show, and from there it was just kind of okay. Appetite starting to be a bit more suppressed. So it was quite a bit of effort to get up to. I think I got up to 200, and then kind of dropped from like actually I don't even think I actually hit 200. I think I hit like 195, and then kind of stayed there, maintained for a while, had some good recomp and everything. And then, I cut down from like 195 to 180. I think there might even, I would have to look back because there might have been two little, I think there was a mini cut to like 190. And then I kind of kept main gaining from there. And then I did
Got
like
it.
that pre-prep conditioning diet where I got down to 180.
Got it. Okay, that's cool. And then when you got down to 180, how long did you sit at 180 for? Like, was it like a 1 month kind of a thing, or did you sit there for a while?
I sat there for like 3 months, I think. Yeah.
Did you find it was comfortable at that? Because I can imagine you were pretty lean at 180.
Yeah.
Were you
So
comfortable, or did you find that like you were starting to get hungry, or it was impacting your training?
when I was going down, like the last couple weeks of that pre-prep cut, I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit of hunger, but nothing too dramatic. Like I was like, okay, like I know if I keep pushing from here, I'm probably going to start to have some other symptoms pop up. But like to be honest, I probably was experiencing the same amount of hunger that I'm experiencing right now towards the end of that last little bit. But then when I brought the calories up, first like a little bit when I brought the calories up, I was like, okay, the hunger's still a little bit up.
So
And then
hungry.
after I think 2 weeks, I was to the point of like, okay, now it's getting to the point where I'm actually having a hard time getting enough food in to maintain my weight.
Interesting. Well, that's a good problem to have. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of
So
the reason that's cool. The part of the reason I'm wondering is I'm doing a similar approach when I start. I'm going to do like a pre-prep diet, and then I'm going to do my actual prep diet, similarly to kind of what you've done. So I was kind of curious as to what it's like at that middle point after you've done the pre-prep diet, and then you're sitting at that spot that's not stage lean, but it's still pretty lean before you go like for the deep dive of prep. So that's interesting that what your feedback is as far as that goes. Okay. So how did that first competition go? How did you do?
it was good, man. Like I was trying to take a slightly different approach to peaking. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Cliff Wilson.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I was trying to mimic a similar like rapid backload to what he's done in the past, or what he does with a lot of his athletes, but I was trying to make it not quite as aggressive. So I was trying to do something similar to that, which I practiced it twice before doing that show. But it was, I got, to be honest, like I got in my head a bit too much, especially for that morning show. I woke up after that, the 850 grams of carbs, literally the exact same weight as my most depleted weight. And sometimes when I
Interesting.
see that, I'm like, okay, I must be flat, but I think I probably just dropped some water retention. And like I didn't really get much sleep that night. I know sometimes when I'm very like anxious or like excited, I don't know, like this could be a theory, but I feel like my metabolism gets ramped up a little bit more. So because last time I did it, I had a 2 pound jump. So that's why I was like, okay, maybe I literally ate the exact same foods. Last time I did, I had a 2 pound jump. This time my weight stayed the exact same. So I was like, okay, like in theory, like this must mean like I'm slightly flat. I look maybe slightly flatter. So I started being a little aggressive in the morning with it. Um, Filled up some more. But when I look back at the photos, I'm like, okay, that was the point where I spilled a little bit. I probably should have pulled back and maintained or got a little bit of pump burn through a little bit of glycogen, but I kept pushing a bit more than I probably should have. So for that morning show on stage, like I was very full. I had some like decent level of conditioning. Like the amount of spillage wasn't like so extreme that it made my physique look like terrible, but I could tell I had a little bit of a softer look in the morning. And then with the night show, I pulled back on food a little bit there and tightened up nicely. And I'm like, okay, this is what I should have. So I pretty much should have just took away one of those meals in the morning and not went as aggressive because it that's the thing with prepping yourself. Sometimes you can be irrational, especially when you're very lean. So I was, yeah, just at that point, just kind of second guessing things, and I just kind of made the wrong choice of having more food than I should have for that morning show. And then I just, yeah, pulled back, made the right decision for the night show, and I would say brought my all-time best kind of look and peak for that night show.
Well, it's nice that you've kind of like did that almost as not really, well, I guess in some sense it was an experiment. You mentioned that you practiced it twice before, so it wasn't like you're going in completely blind. But it's nice that you did that for your first show because now you have a better idea of how you can potentially peak better for your next couple of shows, right?
Yeah, 100%. And like for my next show, I'm actually a buddy of mine, Anthony. He's coached a lot of guys to the stage, especially men's physique and bodybuilding. And like I'm gonna get him actually just to help me with my peaking just a little bit before this next show, so I can give him the reins for it, and I don't have to think about it because that's I have another client competing in the Kona show, so I want to put all of my emphasis on him and not be too worried or looking at myself and second guessing things. So I'm just going to do that for this next show, and I think that should work better from like a stress standpoint.
Yeah, I definitely get that. It's like you can give this psychological burden to someone else and relieve a little bit of stress. That's my definitely. I think that's. I was going to say that's definitely like my one of my biggest kryptonites. I think it's probably a kryptonite for a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of the natural bodybuilders. I know for me, for my last season, it was like every show I did, and that was with having a coach. I wasn't stressed about like the peaking protocol. It was more like I was stressed about being stressed. It was just like that's my personality. Like I'm just like kind of an anxious person. There's nothing like inherently wrong with me. That's just kind of I've always kind of been like that. So that's one of the things that I'm going to work. I'm already thinking about working on for my next season is like how am I going to chill myself out for the night before and just kind of um, let things land where they're going to land and be cool with it. I think that stress does play a pretty that can have a big impact on the way that we look, not just our experience, but also um, you can see it in the mirror. But no, that sounds like a good plan. You got someone that's going to help you with it. Take some of the psychological burden.
Yeah.
What are your goals for this season?
So the main goal, like I've been prioritizing men's physique more than like bodybuilding or classic. Last season, I was kind of prioritizing bodybuilding a bit more. So main priority is trying to get the WMBF pro card for men's physique. Second priority is to get the classic WMBF pro card. So there's both of those that are on the back of my mind. Uh, Again, like when it comes to competing, like I've won shows before. I've came second, I've came third, I've came eighth. The trophy, to those kind of outcome goals aren't as important to me anymore. Like there's almost a sense because like it seems like it's gonna be such a cool thing getting that pro card or winning the show, but I found just the process leading up to it is such a you get so much more out of it than the actual trophy. Like I've had shows where I won where I still had this feeling of not feeling something from it. Like I felt proud, like it was very cool in the moment, but there almost felt like there was something missing. So I try not to put too much emphasis on like how good it's gonna feel. Like, oh, if I get this pro card or this, and try not to sacrifice too much in my life to for that. Like I still want to make sure I'm a good person, a good boyfriend, a good family member, and not being like addicted to people to try to get this trophy. Because at the end of the day, like it's a trophy. Like it, it's not like I'm winning a shit ton of money or anything, but it's just like that accomplishment. I want to make sure family and friends are in a good spot too.
Yeah, I hear you. I've had preps where, like my first couple preps, like you don't realize that when you first get into it, that when you get dieted down, how it affects things from a mental and emotional standpoint, and um, how socializing and relation and how you socialize like within your relationships, how the prep can impact things. I know that for me, when I did my first couple preps, that was like a little bit of a shock. First prep was okay, second prep was okay, third prep was the hardest, but like each of them, and then the fourth prep was probably the best. And I think that's like an experience thing. Like we get better at but being able to balance that as we do it more frequently. But yeah, and it's interesting too, your philosophy around winning. And I know you mentioned earlier that you you like the I'll use the way that I describe it is you enjoy the chase, like just being in the process, right? And it's
Yeah.
like you win a show and you could get a trophy, but then the chase is over, and that's the part of the whole thing that's maybe the most fulfilling or the most satisfying. So like once the chase is gone, you get the trophy, but then it's like, what's the next thing to do, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's like anything. The anticipation is something almost feels better than actually doing the thing or getting the thing that you want. And like for me, like coaching people this stage, like I felt like better seeing my clients get pro cards than like me like winning a show or getting and placing a decent at a show. Like I feel like I don't know, like it's always interesting how that works. Um, but yeah, I can agree more with the chase. Like that's definitely the thing that's you definitely want to focus on. And if you, and that's the main thing too, like if you have a sole focus on just winning, just getting your pro card, giving everything you possibly can just for that goal, and say for example some genetic freak shows up, it's gonna destroy you, man. Like mentally, like it can be pretty brutal because I've been in that position before too when I first started competing. Like I feel like anybody that first starts to compete, they want to win. Like that's pretty much their main outcome or their main goal is to win, not even the process. They just want to win. And like you go through a lot more of that post-show blues and that kind of depression if that does not go well. So just making sure that like you're actually enjoying the process. And when it comes to show day, it goes by so freaking fast. So like make sure you spend some time chat with people backstage. Try to soak it in and be present. Like that's the thing I'm terrible at on show day because I'm in my head way too much, but trying to be present and be present on stage so you actually remember the moment and you don't just be so in your head when you're on stage that you don't even actually remember being on stage, which can happen
All a
sometimes. So,
blur.
yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think that's all really, really good advice. Those are all things that like I would benefit from keeping in mind, like when I do my next shows. I found that for me, the hardest days of prep were, and maybe that these wouldn't be the absolute hardest, but some of the most notable difficult days that were most notably difficult were the competition days, and not the competitions themselves, but after the competitions ended. So like competing in like men's bodybuilding, usually we're like first up. So by the time we're all finished, you're on the stage maybe for a total of like 20-30 minutes if you're like really killing it up there, and then you're done by like, if the show goes late, till like 1 p.m. maybe, and then you've got the rest of the day. And that's what I found was the most difficult part of the prep last year, was like when I would go traveling, and it'd be like, okay, what do I do for the rest of the day? And then I'm in between shows and I'm like, I got to keep digging again, like I got to get ready for the next one. But it's like I'm in my hotel room, I'm like, what do I do with myself? I've got my meals, but I'm still hungry at this point. And like that's what I want to keep in mind for my next season, is having like plans to go do stuff with family and friends like on the day of the shows. So like enjoy the moment, like you said, for the during the show itself, but then after the show, having plans directly after that. So it's not just like twiddling your thumbs, like being like, yeah, I'm ready for my next workout and like go eat my next meal.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's a really good philosophy, and that's really good advice. So you got 2 shows left this season, maybe possibly more. And the next one is next weekend, right?
Yeah. So I'll be in Kelowna again. So I'll be flying back out there on Wednesday, and yeah, no, that one should be good. Like Adrian, the my partner on like the Lifting Nerds podcast, he's going to be
Yep.
competing as well. My girlfriend's going to be competing as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Who There's somebody else that's oh yeah, I have a client, Travis, competing as well in bodybuilding, who's looking awesome. It's actually just his warm-up show, but I think he's almost looking better than just a warm-up show. So yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm very excited for it.
That's awesome. Well, by the time this episode's released, it'll be next Friday. So it'll be the day before the competition. That's when this episode will come out. So got my fingers crossed for you. I know you looked fantastic in the last show, and I think you'll look great for the next one. So whatever, I think you're just going to do great. I think you're going to look fantastic.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, we're hoping just to bring a bit of a tighter look to the stage this time around, and I do feel my physique generally. I do notice with certain people that like they can hold a look quite easily. I find for myself, it's hard for me to hold a look. Like I flatten out really easy, but then when I carb load, I also because some people have like a what is known as like a soft load look. Cliff Wilson will point out, and then some people will have a hard load look. I find I have a soft load looks, but then I also flatten out easy. So it's always a fine
You're just
balance.
like always on your toes trying to find that perfect spot. Yeah, totally. I think for me, it's I've found for my last season, and I've done it, I wouldn't call it a rapid backload. It was like a midweek backload. I did that for my first 2 shows. My first coach had me do that, and then I was self coached for my second competition the next year, and I basically imitated the same thing. It was kind of like what you did, but I did it on the Wednesday, and then had 2 like cleanup days where I was back in the deficit for 2 days, and that actually worked quite well. Being able to like lose some of the spilled over the softness over those couple days. And funny enough, over my last season, we did more of like gradual loading, like 3 days up to the show, 2 days up to the show, more of like a moderate load, and that seemed to work better than like the midweek like super load. And then we really found that for me, at least, and this was just, I mean, who knows if it's going to be the same the next time around, right? But for me, it was we loaded. It was like Wednesday, Thursday, like kind of moderate, high carb days, and then Friday was a cleanup day. So I needed like one cleanup day for myself to lose my extra little bit of spilling, and that was like the hardest look. But even then, it was like maybe I could have like filled up a little bit more. It's tough trying to find that happy medium, and at the same time too, it's like I think Cliff Wilson says this, but he talks about, I think he's the one that brings up this analogy. It's like peaking is like trying to steal candy from a candy shop, where it's like, yeah, if you do it well, then maybe you'll get out of there with a little bit of candy. And it's like, yeah, the candy's awesome, but it's only just candy. But if you mess it up, then it's like, well, then you get arrested, and that's no fun, right? And it's like, same thing with peaking as in bodybuilding. If like you go way over, then I mean, you get a super spilled look, and you're like, you don't want that. So, anyways, I think that's a Cliff Wilson analogy, isn't it?
No, 100%, man, 100%. I remember him here saying something like that. It might have been him or Alberta.
Oh yeah,
But no,
could
I
be an
actually
Alberta
did
one.
for my 2 years ago peak with Jeff Alberts. We did something quite similar where it was like a midweek load, Wednesday high, Thursday high, and then Friday, depending on how I'm looking, we would adjust from there. It was very weird, like for my very last show with him, because we had even more aggressive, went more aggressive. I think we had like either 600, 700 grams of carbs each and every day.
It's like a
On
Hail
like
Mary.
Yeah, so it was like Wednesday, like 600, Thursday 600, and then Friday afternoon I was looking spilled, so we pulled back, and then on the morning of Saturday I was so flat, like I flattened out like
Interesting.
ridiculously, and then we loaded up, and yeah, it was a tough peak for that one. I think my body was just so wrecked from being sick, and we went a little bit more aggressive to try to get a bit more conditioning, and then the peaking was just yeah, it's always weird how it can just be so unpredictable sometimes.
Totally. The human body is a strange thing, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Cool. Well, best of luck for the next couple shows. I'm going to be watching eagerly, like just to get to see what the stage photos look like. The last ones were fantastic, and I think you'll look better even for the next couple shows. So best of luck to you. Where's the best place to find you? So for everyone who's listening, Brandon is a prep coach. He also preps lifestyle clients too, like you mentioned earlier, right? And you're also a posing coach, a great posing coach. So and you also make content as well. So where can people find you?
So yeah, you can find me on Instagram. Brandon Emslie is the handle. I do have a podcast as well with Adrian, the co-host, called Lifting Nerds, which you can find on Spotify or on YouTube. And I do have TikTok and stuff, and Facebook, but that's pretty much the same stuff that I post on Instagram. So Instagram would probably be the best place to follow me.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, this has been awesome, Brandon.
Awesome, man. Thanks for wishing me luck, and I appreciate you having me on the podcast.